Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. aBeZy with some rather strong words for the rest of the players in the Call of Duty League. At 24 years of age, aBeZy reckons he's got much more left in the tank, maybe another 5-6 years at the absolute top of competitive Call of Duty. But aBeZy reckons many of the other pros in this league simply will not be able to have the longevity to actually make that happen, because the vast majority, 80+% of pros in the league, simply do not care as they should about their health and longevity. Very much interested to your thoughts and if he's right in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Not exactly sure who's TJ's talking about here, but feel free to speculate. Just quickly, Law Gaming, they talk about, of course, Heretics. They say 2.5-time world champion because he won the world championship, of course, back in 2019 with aBeZy on eUnited in Black Ops 4. Then he won the world championship with aBeZy in Black Ops Cold War, right, with Atlanta FaZe. So another good year for Nasties. Then things started to go somewhat downhill, but to be fair, the most recent season he was again a world champion, at least with Law Gaming, winning the Challengers World Championship, and therefore he was linked to getting back into the CDL. We thought maybe a spot on the Minnesota Rocker was going to be possible, but in the end, that didn't transpire, and they've chosen PaulX and Geo over Heretics and PaulX, as was, I think, initially rumoured to potentially be the AR duo on that team. Clay was also linked to that team. We'll talk about him in the coming minutes, but yeah, that never went anywhere. So wishing the best for Nasties. It's just, you know, the same story for Priestahh. Of course, they're brothers. Priestahh talked the other day at how he'd, you know, been in a difficult time, a great player in his day when he's confident, but then here he is on the right-hand side. He's now been out of the league for a little while. Nasties is difficult to imagine where his next step's going to come from, but if he continues to do well in challenges, someone will have a think about it. I think 04's probably talking about football here, or, you know, American football, right? In terms of which team he's now going to be supporting, maybe, but still, obviously, people were like, oh, new team, maybe he's talking about Surge. When are they going to confirm things? I don't know. As of recording, they've not done yet. We haven't really had many confirmations at all over the last few days, despite the fact that most of these teams, we probably know what they're going to be. 04, Abuzah, Nastie, and Hicksy is the rumoured team of 4. The question, I think the main question is, because 04 and Abuzah, no-brainer to keep those guys around, I think. aBeZy for Nastie, I think, is worth a try as a potential upgrade, as long as Abuzah's going to be happy, because, you know, aBeZy in part was probably brought in to make Abuzah more comfortable. But then again, is Abuzah just going to be more comfortable anyway, playing his actual role? Probably yes. So I like that move. I like Hicksy as well, but I think the Hicksy for Hook change is like, well, that is the question mark as to whether 04 can be enough of a slaying force on the SMG that you can get away with that. And maybe they can, but I don't know if that's going to last the test of time precisely. Let's talk about some other things though. This is pretty funny, I just thought, from Octane, because look, this is the level of bag that Scump was kind of leaving on the table when he was playing. And this is the reason why Scump is not going to come back anytime soon. And I guess technically he could do this while he was still playing, right? But you know, he's partnering with Paramount Pictures for their new movie. And like, this is just the type of stuff that Scump is able to do because he's Scump. And you know, not many other personalities in the scene have this type of access to get deals like this. And obviously, if the bag is there, Scump's going to take it, right? And as Octane says, I wasn't going to see Smell too, but now that King Scumpy is partnering with Paramount, I think I'll go and see it. So obviously people are saying the same kind of thing in the replies. I thought that was quite funny. But obviously Scump now retired a couple of years ago. Could he have gone on longer? For sure. Was he taking care of himself? Yeah, seemed to be. And yeah, was his enjoyment of the game somewhat falling off compared to what it was previously? We know that in games like Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, for example, like Scump loved those games. He'd play so many public matches on those games, and there's really no surprise that he was one of the absolute best players in the world from a competitive perspective on those games as well. So Scump could have kept going longer, sure, but obviously he had more money to make and more enjoyment to have in life doing other things, and that's fair enough. The majority of pros, that doesn't really apply to. If they're no longer a pro, you know, it's going to be a challenge for their next step. It's, if you're Scump, it's like, well, do I continue playing, or do I just go and make an absolute bag streaming and making content and enjoying my life more? Probably, you know, at some point Scump decided that was the thing to do. Whereas for most pros, it's not so clear. For OpTic players, you can do it, sure. But even if then, you know, will you be part of OpTic forever? There's other questions on it. For most pro players, they need their career to keep going, because if they fall off, if they no longer have those spots in the league, then all of a sudden sudden things can start to go wrong, their career can go downhill, they get dropped out of the league, it's difficult to get back in. And then what do? It's not easy if you don't have that big content backing. So this is the question that some players have gone through. aBeZy does turn on the stream, and he's a good content creator when he decides to. Most of the time, right, we know the FaZe guys, they just play Call of Duty and dominate and win loads of prize money. And these guys are so good, they're not going to be going out of the league anytime soon. But nonetheless, you still need to take care of yourself, because otherwise your level is going to fall off. And I think this is something that people have realized for some time in many a sport, that being physically healthy is probably better for your mental well-being as well, and therefore probably better for your actual play in the game. It's not necessarily a guarantee. I mean, look, people can be unhealthy or whatever physically and still play top level Call of Duty. Sure, it's possible. Can you do that for a long sustained period of time? That maybe is the challenge. I mean, there's kind of been a similar debate in darts recently, if you guys followed darts at all. But Luke Humphreys has won last year's World Championship, is currently on an absolute tear. And he used to be like a bigger bloke, shall we say. He lost a lot of weight, took care of himself more physically. And it seems to be translating. But of course, a lot of other top darts players are still, you know, big bloke down the pub having a pint, right? So it is what it is. But in Call of Duty, maybe the same thing applies. And certainly, if I was a COD pro, if I was good enough to be one, like, I would adopt this mentality of, right, well, if I take care of myself outside of the game, more than likely my performance in the game is not going to suffer. Now, Scump did say that if you, let's say, hit the weights in the gym, he felt like the calluses on his hands actually affected his play on the controller because his hands weren't as supple or whatever. And sure, I get that. But, you know, hitting the treadmill should be no problem with that. So I'll just share what aBeZy says, because in his opinion, I think he's 24 now, we'll see it in a second, he reckons he can still be playing in the league at 30, as long as he takes care of himself, as long as he hits the gym. And I think this is definitely the right mentality.
I think I can hit 30 though, for sure. As long as I just take care of myself, go to the gym, and just keep doing what I'm doing, really, I feel like I can easily make it till I'm 30. The main thing with like COD pros and like, it's just hard to maintain that lifestyle while also like, I feel like a lot of the COD pros don't go to the gym and just don't take care of themselves, you know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to like last that long when it comes to passion. But like, I feel like if you have a good balance of gym, playing, competing, and, you know, putting in that effort still, like at the highest level, it's really not hard to last that long. I think I swear there's only like 10 pros in the league, maybe probably less than that, probably like 8 that really take care of themselves, like health wise, go to the gym, shit like that.
So this is the data on the average age of CDL teams as of a few months ago. I just noticed Grayster's face here at the bottom right hand side again that we did. But I think this is maybe back in June sometime or sometime earlier this season when, I mean, it must be because this is the new Miami Heretics logo, so it's got to be this season anyway. And this is some of the data. The average age of pros at the time was 23.6, so, you know, pretty standard maybe in some esports. Some esports are younger, some esports are older, and, you know, Valorant, Rocket League will skew significantly younger, Counter-Strike will skew older than this, I would imagine. But, yeah, most teams, average age 23, 24, something like that. Of course, Clayster is a bit of an anomaly in the Call of Duty world. He's played much longer. But, you know, we've got the likes of Clay, Slasher, Attach, still, you know, they're getting up there, 27, 28, 29, etc. I think Formal maybe is 29 now, and he was saying that, like, he's nearly 30, but he's still playing great Halo, so why would he leave? Especially if, you know, a potential God squad is on the table over there. But these are the kind of numbers. Now, it is interesting to note that the Pro Classic back in 2022, it actually skewed a fair bit younger, right? The average age here, a couple of the academies down in like the 20s, 21s, and it seems like averaging this out at the time, the average was kind of more like, you know, 23 flats, 22 high, and then a couple of years later, the average is now more 23 and a half, which I think maybe says something about the state of the league, just because, and obviously like guys like Clay and Sasha were competing here, and then we're still competing later on, so it kind of makes sense that's happened. But at the same time, I don't know if the talent pipeline in COD is quite what it used to be, right? And I am concerned about this. And this is the reason why I'm trying to like help promote aBeZy's message on some level, is that many of these pro players, like, they are not necessarily getting threatened maybe by the younger generation, because I don't really know if there is as much of a younger generation as there previously has been. It is a concern, and if I was the commissioner of the league, I would be seriously thinking about this now, is that how come we've gone from having absolute top tier superstars coming into the league every single year, But last year that didn't happen, and this year it doesn't look like it's going to happen either, right? Like last year we had good players, Abuzah, like 04, obviously like Estriel and stuff like that. Lynz came in, but you know, no HyDras, no Preds, no Shotzys, right? Like no Simps, these type of no Scrappies. So you know, it's a bit of a concern, I would say, as to where that talent pipeline is. And you know, you're starting to see the league skew a little bit older. And you know, I think it's good on some level because it means maybe the players are taking more care of themselves. But equally, we kind of need these players too, because, you know, we need them to stay competitive, because otherwise some of the personalities are going to leave, and I don't know whether there's that next generation of personalities coming through. I felt this a few years ago when Scump and Kremp and Karma and these guys were about to retire, and I was like, damn, like, where's the next generation of personalities? And then all of a sudden, Pred and certainly Scrappy, they come out of the woodwork and they're in the league, and maybe that'll happen again. But you know, with Warzone and with everything, there's a few players out there that are notable in the challenger scene, you know, upcoming players, 16, 17, 18. The fact that also you have to be 18 to play challenges, I think is a big error. Like, I think they've got to find a way to allow players to play in tier 2 before they're 18, in my opinion. But kind of going on a bit of a tangent here, to be fair, but I still think it's relevant. This is aBeZy, however, 24 he is now, so he'll be 25 in November, so in a few weeks' time. And yeah, aBeZy reckons that he's got maybe 5 more years if he properly takes care of himself, and I think that he's probably on the money, to be honest. What do we think about some of these other players in the league then, right? Like, how long is their longevity if they don't take care of their health and well-being, as guys like aBeZy do? And, you know, many of the guys know this, and it's not like they've got to be pumping iron all the time, right? But just keeping yourself in good physical shape and mental shape has to be beneficial. It can't be harmful for the long-term longevity of a potential career. And as I said earlier, for many pro players, they can't necessarily afford to be out of that situation, right? Because, you know, look, some guys, they can build a stream presence, and then after their COD career is done, they can go and do that. But there's just been so many players that have had a brief stint in the league over the last couple of years, and maybe they just weren't good enough. But some players are good enough if they maybe took care of themselves as well as they could have done. They could maintain their longevity. And then unfortunately for some of these guys, once they're then out of the league, and it's not an easy lifestyle. I mean, obviously people take the piss out of pros because they're like, you're playing COD for a living, like it's easy. You know, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt on some level. But it is a grind, for sure. You're playing lots of the same game all of the time. You know, you're sitting in one place most of the time. And, you know, you're also committed to playing like every single day. You know, no real days off, no real holidays during the season. You know, you're playing like hours and hours, different scrim sets, VOD review, like research, all these things that are happening every day. So, you know, I get that it can be a challenge, but the pros that do look after themselves, I'm sure it will prove to be beneficial. Certainly aBeZy feels that way, and if he feels that way, likely the rest of the FaZe guys do as well. And I think you see the same thing for some of the players now that are getting to like 23, 24, 25. Not that that's old, but in COD terms, that is certainly older half of the league as it currently stands. And, you know, those guys starting to realize, okay, you know, how do I keep this going for longer? Because there's been many pros that their career has ended, and then it's like, well, what do I do? And they don't really have something to fall back on. So, you know, that's one thing to figure out, something to fall back on if your COD career is over, but also extend it as long as possible, as the likes of Clayster has done. And, you know, Clay's been incredible to stay around in the scene as long as he has. Incredibly commendable. That, of course, may not continue this year. To our current understanding, Clay may not be getting a spot back in the league. But as ever, very much interested your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
What would be your preferred job if you never became a pro gamer? I always wanted to be a chef when I was growing up. I feel like having the ability to cook your own fire meals for a low price is a life skill that is insane. I mean, imagine being able to go to the grocery store, pick out like 8 fresh ingredients, come back, and then make like steakhouse level meal. That just sounds crazy. So you decided to cook these kids on COD.
Dude.
I couldn't cook meat, so I
Ain't no
decided to cook
fucking way.
motherfuckers on the toy. Ain't that right?